with his bombardment of Iran, for example, that possibly this isolationism that we thought was the hallmark of his foreign policy is not all it seems.
Yeah.
It's possible, if Zelensky is giving an accurate readout, that America might be prepared to do more in defense of Ukraine.
Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump have had a phone call this morning where they discussed Ukraine's air defences. The phone call follows Russia's largest aerial assault on Ukraine since the start of the war. Yesterday, Presidents Putin and Trump spoke on the phone. Trump did not think it had gone well.
I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy. I didn't make any progress with him today at all.
Didn't make any progress, he says. So that's bad news for Putin, potentially, or is it? Let's speak now to the World Affairs Editor for The Times, Philp. Good afternoon, Catherine.
Hi, Kathy.
Will you assess the latest state of play after these phone calls with Putin and with Zelensky and Trump, of course? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we heard from Zelensky was that the call he had very recently, just an hour or so ago, with Trump was actually that it went quite well, and that Trump was prepared to speak to him without the Russians involved, just Ukrainian American talks about the provision of air defenses to Kyiv. Now, the crucial caveat in this is we haven't heard the White House readout yet. So we haven't heard Trump's reaction, and we know how mercurial he could be. But it obviously follows that call yesterday with that clip you just played where, Trump, it seems to be dawning on Trump that that Putin is not as pliable as he thought he might be. I mean, he used almost exactly the same phraseology that he used about Israel the other day. I'm not happy with them, but it has no effect on Putin. So where he goes from here isn't clear. But if it is true what Zelensky has said, that they're going to talk about air defenses, it is a huge positive, because what happened a few days ago was that the air defenses that had already been promised by the last Congress before Trump came into office had been abruptly stopped. Now, literally, cargo planes turned around in the air as they were going to European bases to take Patriot missile systems to move on to Ukraine. Now, it seems that decision was the work of a man called Elbridge Colby, who is the Pentagon chief of policy, who I actually met in May in last year in Washington, and he's a huge opponent of American support for Ukraine, so very much from that MAGA crowd. So it remains to be seen what which way Trump will jump, because I think just seen with his bombardment of Iran, for example, that possibly this isolationism that we thought was the hallmark of his foreign policy is not all it seems. And it's possible, if Zelensky is giving an accurate readout, that America might be prepared to do more in defense of Ukraine.
Right. Well, we'll get a reaction from Arseniy Yatsenyuk, a former Prime Minister of Ukraine, in just a second. But just one more from you, Catherine. The hole that these air defences would leave was sort of brutally exposed last night, wasn't it, with this bombardment of Kyiv? Just put us in the picture on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was there a few weeks ago myself, and I actually spent a night with guys who are literally trying to shoot down these drones with just machine guns. That is what they're kind of reduced to, because these Patriot systems have to be reserved for taking out the big missiles that the Russians also send. And that's the only thing, weapon they have that can take those down. Essentially, what Russia is doing is it's doing these sort of swarm drone attacks, some of which are decoys, some of which are real, most of which don't actually carry warheads. But it seems to be an attempt to completely overwhelm, exhaust Ukrainian air defenses, so they simply run out of ammunition. And we know from what Putin has said since he spoke to Trump that he said there isn't a diplomatic off-ramp for this. It's very, very clear, I think, that Russia still believes it can win this on the battleground or in the air, essentially on a military basis. So that's what we saw happening last night, that attempt to literally wear Ukraine stocks out and in the hope that no one else will replenish them.
Right. Catherine Philp, thank you very much. Let's turn now to Arseniy Yatsenyuk, former Prime Minister of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Arseniy.
Good afternoon, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme. And you heard from Catherine there that if Zelensky's readout of the phone call with Trump is correct, namely that, and I'll just quote from what he said afterwards, that they spoke about opportunities in air defence and they vowed to work together to strengthen protection of our skies. If that reading is correct, that's quite a positive outcome, isn't it?
Well, frankly speaking, Kathy, I am no longer interested in any kind of readouts, neither from the White House nor from my administration. What I am really interested in are clear-cut actions. So if President Trump, after the telephone chat with my president, gives a very clear and undeniable instruction to his Secretary of Defense, Hexet, to supply Ukraine with an ammo that is urgently needed for Ukraine, starting with the air defense systems and ending with the missiles for fighter jets F-16. This would be the best outcome of any kind of political negotiations that my president had with President Trump. And the same goes with designated war criminal Putin. Look, he doesn't care about any kind of politically correct readouts or messages. He cares only about actions. And there is only one way how to win this war, is to prove that we are ready to fight like hell, to show to the entire autocrats and dictators in this world that the Western world is united and have guts and ready to supply as much as needed in order for Ukraine to win, period.
Right. I mean, you sound understandably impatient, but really your message, the time for talking is done. Time now to act.
Absolutely. Because, look, Kathy, Putin believes that the time is in his hands. And Putin believes that he can outwit, that he can outplay. And if you double check every single action that have been undertaken by our Western allies and mainly by the US, it all goes into the hands of Putin. And a number of sanctions have been lifted. The U.S. administration, for the second time in a row, already suspended the shipment of ammo to Ukraine. There is a never-ending talk of some kind of economic miracles between Russia and the United States. And I'm always wondering what the U.S. can get in the economy, which is Russian economy, which is lower in terms of GDP than California and Texas. Okay? So what kind of economic benefits they can even gain? And notwithstanding the fact that I can't believe that the leader of the free world can cooperate with a designated war criminal.
So, in other words, this now, the talking has gone on and a war of attrition benefits Putin far more than your administration. Is that right?
No doubt. No doubt. Look, this is a meat-grinding war. This is the war of attrition. And this designated war criminal, he managed to conscript hundreds of thousands of people. And just to tell your audience, you're well aware that Russia already lost, in both killed and injured, around 1 million people. It is unbelievable. It is staggering. But the thing is that during this telephone call with President Trump, Putin was very clear, saying that he is not ready to back down. He is ready only for Ukraine's capitulation. And this is not about Ukraine's capitulation. He is ready for the capitulation of the free world, including the United States. And what he did today at night, he deliberately bombarded Ukraine after his telephone call with Trump and before the telephone chat of my president with President Trump.
Yeah, the timing was very interesting, wasn't it?
And the day the U.S. celebrates its Independence Day. And let me congratulate the American people with their Independence Day.
Yeah, you want your independence preserved. I mean, just a final brief thought. You can be robust, you can say these things, but we saw what happened when Zelensky spoke his mind to Donald Trump in the Oval Office. He has to just play along and speak nicely, doesn't he?
Look, for the time being, as of now, my president approaching the president of the United States in the right way. So he is doing the same what your prime minister have done already, and the French president and the
Playing
Secretary
nicely.
General of NATO. Right, and that's correct. So we are living in this cynical world. So these are the rules of the games.
Yeah. Arseniy Yatsenyuk, thank you so much for joining us, former Prime Minister of Ukraine. Fascinating to hear your thoughts there.